All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here is the exact word-for-word sales script I use to close $10,000 plus coaching clients, and it is a breakdown of how someone who's even functionally retarded can close high-ticket coaching offers. And if you're wondering what this screenshot is right here, that is a couple payments from the last couple weeks. Obviously, some people are on payment plans, some people aren't. You know how that goes. So let's get straight into it. Some baseline evidence. If you guys have seen that YouTube video I did where I talked about how to maintain above a 65% close rate or 65-70% close rate through organic funnels, you'll recognize this. Our pipeline maintains above a 65% close rate at medium volume, not high volume yet, but maintaining an extremely high conversion rate. And clients end up using the same exact sales process that I'm about to show you, end up 6 to 9xing their prices and closing above 50% continuously. So a little bit of background as to how we got into high ticket offers and why I'm making this presentation in the first place. Back in 2020, I got out of the military, as you can see right here. I was briefly homeless for a short period. This was not a great time. I was down horrendous, and I needed a way of making money without entering a criminal enterprise. Now, the quickest path that I saw in order to do this was to get into car sales. I'd never done sales prior to this, mind you. I tried a little bit of like drop shipping, stuff like that. Wasn't like super keen on it at the time, so I just went straight into car sales in order to escape the broke. And I ramped like a motherfucker. I was there for at the dealership that I was at for 12 hours a day and for months on end. I would show up almost 7 days a week, and I did 4.8 million in sales volume within 8 months. Pressure makes diamonds, right? There's me at the time period. The stage after that, after I left car sales, though it was good, I just didn't want to do stuff that was in person anymore. I didn't like having to be there, like physically, in order to, close deals, so on and so forth. So I ended up getting linked with a buddy that, he got me linked in this position where I was doing outbound prospecting and lead generation and a little bit of like managing sales pipeline, so on and so forth, for extremely high ticket offers. Obviously, I was under NDA, and just out of respect for that NDA and the people I work with, I'm not going to go into like the hyper specifics of it. But we were super in the trenches at that time. And I mean like 12, 14-hour days. I did legitimately, from that time period, I have like 5 or 6 pictures. But I was doing outbound prospecting and lead gen for offers that were between 50 and 500K. And I left because that. It was good. I actually didn't mind doing outbound prospecting just because I was good at it. And I left because the same buddy that linked me up here challenged me to start my own offer. I was like, okay. He was basically like, dude, if you don't start your own high ticket offer, you're basically a pussy. And I was like, fair point. So, given the kind of things we were dealing with here and a little bit of the background that I'd been testing, like drop shipping, so on and so forth during this time period as well, and all the experience I had right here with the kind of offers and the kind of things that I was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, I started offering conversion rate optimization services for direct-to-consumer brands. And I wanted to launch that offer, but I was like, I also don't want to have to do cold outreach because I'd been doing outbound prospecting and lead generation here, but I was like, dude, it was fine, but it wasn't great, right? So I was like, I'm going to do inbound only through social media. And mind you, this is a B2B high ticket service. This is like business to business high ticket service. So I was thinking like, okay, what's the fastest channel I could just get fucking leads now and get them inbound so the close rate is really high? So naturally, the progression of thought led to, okay, we'll start posting on TikTok about this. Here's like a screenshot of some of the ones I was doing at that time. And I had literally gotten my first deal within, I think it was like a week or two of starting. It was like a $3,500 like one-time project. And I was like, okay, this works, keep going. And then I just started doing 2 TikToks a day and started ripping 2 to 8K a month retainers within weeks of starting. And yeah, I just kept ripping it. It was just like fulfill, post content, close deals, fulfill, post content, close deals, so on and so forth. Just kept going. Example of retainers during this period. It was my average retainer was $7,500. Now, if you guys have seen the long form video about Will, you'll know that led to how this led into ASM and scaling coaching offers, so on and so forth. 7-figure run rate accelerator for coaching offers, where we're optimizing the offer, sales funnel, and sales processes. So that's why we are here today. This is a video going over how to optimize your sales process and the bottom of funnel so that you can close higher ticket and close at a higher conversion rate. So, how everyone screws up sales. In my opinion, actually, it's not even opinion, it's just fact. Objection handling is completely unnecessary. Contrary to popular belief, it is a practice that is only worshipped by the inept. We actually don't even teach objection handling inside ASM because we don't need to. The best way I think about objection handling is that it's a symptom and a byproduct of a weak sales process and or a weak link in the top of the funnel. Understand that if you find yourself handling objections regularly, that is not a natural occurrence. That's not just like a thing that's supposed to happen. Okay? Like it is not correct. That is bad. That should not be happening. That's like when I was writing this, a good way to think about it is this: if the sales process in the funnel is the human body, objections are symptoms of a sickness. Okay? Objection handling is not necessary, nor should it even occur in the first place. It is indicative that something is wrong before the pitch. There's something broken. Like I said, here at ASM, I just don't accept objections. That just doesn't happen. That's just not real. In fact, it's to such a degree that almost 20% of our conversions occur without even a call happening in the first place. That's how streamlined everything is. Every sales process can be mechanically engineered to never have objections arising in the first place. So the big thing I want to outline here is that objection handling, that is not a naturally occurring phenomena. That should not be happening. Every purchase should be a no-brainer. Done. Now, how this is done is by pre-selling the offer before the call, anti-selling, and what we call pull marketing, not push marketing, and conducting a proper sales process where the sale is more about conducting research and just performing a predetermined set of actions than it is actually about having to be like, nunchuck closer where it's like you know the perfect response for every objection handle. It's like, we could just get rid of that. That doesn't need to exist in the first place. If you guys have ever seen those videos on YouTube about like, live objection handling, it's like that. Why work harder? It doesn't need to be that way. Why work harder? So some things to note before I get into the exact sales script is that every sale between 2 and 10,000 in this whole like coaching info, this whole space, every sale between 2 and 10K is the same. As long as the price range falls within this, 2K to 10K, the sales process remains unchanged. If your price falls either above or below this range, the amount of time spent in the sales stage increases or decreases respectively. And by sales stage, I mean like where the actual sales conversation is occurring. So if it's below 2K, that's just like a webinar. It's a webinar or it's a sales page through DMs. That realistically shouldn't even be on a call. Realistically. I can understand it if you're getting started. Totally. If it's above 10K, that's the likelihood that it's going to start ending up being a multi-call close gets higher, like drastically higher. And your ticket price determines how much content the prospect needs to consume before buying. Really fucking simple here. Higher price, more content needs to be consumed before the sales conversation. Lower price, less content needs to be consumed. However, the more content that is consumed before the sales conversation increases the velocity at which people will convert. So they will convert faster and easier the more content they have consumed prior to the sales process. And lastly, what happens before the call matters as much as during the call. That's kind of a summation of these, right? People that close on our beginner offer on average typically spend about 1 to 4 weeks watching our content before deciding to come in. And that's the offer where it's get your coaching offer to the first 5 to 10K a month. And 90+% of the people that buy our accelerator program, that's actually ASM, right there, get your coaching offer to 20 to 50K a month. Usually, on average, from what I've noticed from listening to sales calls and speaking to people, they usually have watched our content for 3 to 6 months on average, whereas this one is a lot. I mean, we have people that same day they see our stuff done, but that typically doesn't happen on ASM. So just some things to note before we get into it. Now, the sales call structure. We have the disco phase. We're conducting our mad scientist research on Mr. Prospect for our marketing data hoard. The open wound section, where we're capitalizing on the programs, methods, and systems Mr. Prospect has used in the past. Ascension, seeing what the bigger picture is for Mr. Prospect. Where we deem qualified, that's number 4. Where we pass judgment on Mr. Prospect. What we even do here loudly and proudly states what we do here. The thesis section outlining to Mr. Prospect why our rocket ship gets us to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow faster, better, or easier. The vehicle section outlining to Mr. Prospect how the ride in our rocket ship will go step by step. Sales thermometer, checking Mr. Prospect's temperature so we can defang objections prior to price dropping. Dropping bombs in hefty paydays. Allowing Mr. Prospect to purchase the rocket ship tickets from us and letting him know his options. And then giving him the tickets to the rocket ship. This is where we actually give him the tickets and we essentially put him into the onboarding stage, right? So, first and foremost, getting actually into the sales script now, the disco phase. And no, not that type of disco. That means like this is just an abbreviation for discovery. Obviously, we start out with, hey, Mr. Prospect, can you hear me? That's a given. I probably shouldn't have to explain the reasoning behind that. 2, great. So these calls usually run about 45 minutes. Is now still a good time for the call? The idea behind this is that obviously this is kind of assumed that they're going to be good to go naturally. However, the reason we're asking this is to determine whether or not they're going to pull the, well, hey, I have a call coming up. I got to get off right at the finish line. So we're trying to prevent that. So when we ask this, we're looking for, oh yeah, man, I got all the time in the world for this call. Like, yeah, I'm all set up. I'm ready to go, so on and so forth. You were just trying to predetermine if there's going to be a, oh, hey, I got something to go take care of. It's usually bullshit, right? Then we set the agenda, and the prospect needs to agree to the agenda being set. So you're basically going to say how every stage of the call is going to work. I'm going to ask you some questions, make sure that you're a good fit for the program. Then from there, I'm going to explain our unique method, how we get clients' results, and then we can talk about next steps. Super simple. And the need to agree to the agenda being set. Then, immediately after you set the agenda, you're going to ask them, so give me some background, Mr. Prospect. What was the motivation for booking the call today? Remember, this is an inbound funnel. This could be used through paid ads as well, but this is an organic inbound sales process. So you're going to ask them, like I just said, what was the motivation for booking the call today? Reason you want to ask it like this is that we're letting them explain their situation here, obviously, and then what they're going to do because it's phrased in this way. Like, give me some background. What was your motivation for coming in and asking us for help? That's basically what's occurring here. And from this, they're going to basically start to spill their guts out, which is exactly what you want for your data and so that they can become more comfortable, right? And ideally, this is occurring for at least 5 minutes. If they don't organically go for 5 minutes, we're going to be fantastic listeners, and we're going to coax more depth of their situation out of them. If for any reason they stop and like, oh, yeah, so I'm just here because I really liked what you guys were putting out, and I think you could help me. Okay, why do you think we can help you? See what I mean? So you're just going to, if they answer it really short, you're just going to keep coaxing more out of them, and you're going to have to listen really well so you can do this. It's really active. Next, the open wound section. If this wasn't answered in the previous question, gotcha. So what are you struggling with as it relates to, and here you're going to insert the transformation that you sell. So if fitness coaching offer, you're going to say, gotcha. So what are you struggling as it relates to losing weight or putting on muscle, so on and so forth. And you're trying to get at least 2 to 3 major struggle points out here. Next after that, gotcha. So what effect, obviously you're saying this in a much more like legitimate like speaking tone. I'm just saying it because I'm reading off a presentation, right? So gotcha. So what effect does the struggle points or pain points that you've outlined have on your life or your situation? If you're selling an offer more to like businesses and stuff like that, you're going to say situation. So like have on the growth of your business, have on X, Y, and Z that they've already outlined. If you're selling, fitness offer, or you're selling to like really heavily consumers, you're going to say life. Yeah, basically, if you're selling to consumers, you're going to go more on, what effect does being a fat piece of shit have on your life? Right? That's how you're going to word it. Not literally, but you get what I mean. Not literally like calling them a fat piece of shit on the call. Next, and how long have you been dealing with pain points / trying to fix this problem? Once again, if you're selling to a consumer and you're selling actually like B2C, not B2B, you're going to hammer in on the pain points. Or, I mean, you could do it for both realistically, but trying to fix this actually, now that I think about it, you could use both these for it. You can, just fire either of these based on the situation at hand. You're not going to just fire this as like, you're not going to, if you're talking to a business owner that's asking for, your coaching or consulting service, you're not going to say like, you're not going to get all super emotional. It's going to be way more logical. So you're going to be trying to fix this problem. Pain points is more to consumers. So once you have that, you're going to go into, okay, understood. Now, what do these metrics look like? And by metrics, it's like you're asking for like specific, preferably more numerically oriented things. So a fitness example could be, okay, gotcha, understood. Now, how many times a week are you going out to eat? And you're going to say it exactly like that. You're going to say it in a very inquisitive tone, like you're a doctor and you're trying to figure out what their situation is. Like you're trying to get you're really trying to hammer in on the information, and you're trying to figure out you're looking at all the symptoms to determine what the sickness is. That's what you're doing. So how many times a week are you going out to eat? Okay, and how many times a week are you going to the gym? Okay, when you go to the gym, what kind of lifting do you do? Do you do primarily compound lifts? Do you do more cardio? Stuff like that. That's what you're going to be doing. Very inquisitive tone. You are the doctor. You are the surgeon. You are the researcher. You're the scientist right here. This is where you're being the scientist in this area. Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, what effect do you think going out to eat 2 to 3 times a week has on your current situation or losing weight? Okay, and you just like do that for all of those, right? You're going to just, so if you don't mind me asking, what effect does you going to the gym only 2 or 3 times a week instead of more times a week, or too many times a week, have on your current situation of fat loss? Stuff like that. So you're being the scientist right here. Okay, now do you have a solution or any sort of plan in place to deal with this issue as it currently stands outside of this call here, or our program, anything like that? They're obviously most likely going to say no. If they do say yes, you can extrapolate. You can dive into that. It's not really necessary. 95% of the time, they're going to say no. They're on the call with you. You know this. You know the answer to this question already. But what you're trying to do is get them to voice that they do not have a solution or a plan in place outside of being on the call with you. That's what's happening here. Next. Okay, gotcha. So what either courses or methods, programs have you tried so far to fix this? And this doesn't have to mean things that you've bought, but any sort of methods or strategies you've tried as well. That's exactly how I would say this one. Conversational tone, I mean. Here, you're trying to determine if from the data standpoint, you're trying to figure out who competitors are in the market without you having to go search. And additionally, you're trying to see if they've been burned before right here. That's what this is. And you can base data off that. Or you can base your marketing off of this right here. Next, did those work or not work for you? This is kind of obvious. You're just going deeper in on this. And then if they did try things in the past, what did you like about the program, courses, methods, strategies that you tried before, and what did you not like? So there's 2 things happening here. This entire line of questioning is, 1, getting them to sell themselves, that they're in a position where they need a solution direly. And 2 is that these are all research questions that we're taking notes aggressively on in order to aggregate data on what kind of language that the prospects are using and the pain points that they're experiencing. And you're putting this all down in a spreadsheet. And after you do this sales process, 3, 4, 5 dozen times, you'll have just a bank of the typical pain points and everything that are typically used, and you could reapply that in your marketing, right? So moving on from the open wounds phase, the ascension phase. Now, ideally, where do you want to take, for example, if I was to ask this to someone on one of our calls, okay, now ideally, where do you want to take the coaching offer in the next 3, 6, 12 months? What does that look like? If you're selling a fitness offer, okay, so ideally, where do you want to take your, I'm trying to think here, your like health journey, your weight loss journey in the next 3 to 6, 12 months, your bodybuilding journey, depending on what kind of specific sub niche you're servicing. Yeah, so you're getting them to visualize where they want to be. And immediately after dumping all their pain, it's really easy for them to just, oh yeah, well, here's all this, and they spill their guts more. Okay. So what should all the metrics that you asked them before, right here, that's what you're re-hitting on. Okay, so what should this look like in 3, 6, 12 months as well? Like what would your eating habit, what do you think your eating habits should look like? What should your gym habits look like in the next 3 to 6, 12 months? What should your lead generation look like in the next 3, 6, 12 months? And you're getting them to visualize that. Like the point of this is you're getting them to visualize how do I put this? You're getting them to visualize and correlate these things with you is what's happening here. Obviously, this is good for, once again, more data collection. It's fantastic for that. But in the moment, you're getting them to visualize and correlate these kind of outcomes with you, right? That's all, like, all a sales call is you're just getting them to pre-sell themselves while you're collecting data. So you can just make this, remember how I said in the beginning, objections don't need to happen, is because you're creating a constant cycle where your funnel just gets like all the way from the top to bottom, the messaging and all the language you're using, all the pain points you're hitting on, and all the solutions you're talking about in your content. It just hits so fucking hard that you never have a problem converting anyone. It's so on the money. And that's what we're trying to do here, is gather that data and at the same time just get them to sell themselves. Next. Okay, gotcha. So what effect would having transformation taken care of have on your current situation? Like what effect would losing 20 pounds have on your current situation, or like your life, so on and so forth, the things that they've outlined already? Okay, understood. And what's stopping you, in your own opinion, from just hitting this on your own? Like, what's stopping you from doing it on your own? This one is kind of a kicker. Like this one, it's almost like the death hammer of the sales process. And this next one I'm about to go into as well. But this one is like, oh my God. This is half the sales call right here. This is like half the conversion. You just get them to say what's stopping them from completing it on their own as they're on the call with you after dumping their pain and saying all the things that they want to accomplish. Like, bro, just fucking have them pull the credit card out here, right? Obviously, we're not doing that because we want to run them through everything, but like, this is like 30% of the entire sales process is this question alone. But you have to cook up to it. You can't just drop that. You have to do this specific process. And then my personal favorite question in the sales process. This one is so good for giving you data, and at the same time, them closing themselves is ridiculous. Now, I know you said that you've been dealing with this for a couple months now, but I'm kind of interested. What was it that made you want to solve this now? Like, what was the nail in the coffin that made you decide, like, yeah, I'm just going to book the call and just take care of this, like, once and for all? If you say it exactly like that, it's done. You've already finished the sale right here. You just have to not fuck up the rest of like the 20 minutes after that, right? Yeah, this question legitimately puts your entire sales process into hyperdrive, and I cannot emphasize enough how well it programs the prospect into realizing they've already made the decision to take action, and that you're reframing the convo so that they're buying from us, not selling from us, or we're not selling them. I cannot emphasize enough how fucking much of an absolute like railgun of a question this is. This is like if we're talking like you're fucking, if everything were to hinge on only one question, and which question is the strongest, in my opinion, it's this one. This is the death. This is like the scythe of the sales process that just cleans it up. Okay, and what happens if you don't solve this in 3, 6, 12 months? Simple. You're posing a question in their head where they have to outline and just say verbally, well, I'm kind of fucked, right? Especially after they've done all this. So it's all like a sequence, and this is all like, when people say, if you guys have ever heard people that do sales training ever talk about sales is like a dance, it's like a choreographed dance. This is the choreography. Everything has to happen in this order. You ask them all these things in a very specific order, and it's done. The whole thing is just fucking done without you having to do anything. You don't have to do objection handling. So this, immediately after this question, after you said, oh yeah, I need to take care of this right now, they say like, yeah, I've just tried so many things, it doesn't work. I just need to finally commit. Okay, and what happens if you don't commit? Well, I'm stuck in all this bullshit of the open wound section. They're stuck here the whole time if they don't solve it ASAP, right? So the ascension, so this is where you get them cooking and you get them to basically spill their guts as to what their problems are and why they need to work with you. And this emphasizes it. This is like the multiplier of that in their own mind. So moving on, qualification. Once you've determined if you have specific qualification metrics that need to be met, like us, for example, like if people don't meet certain qualifiers, obviously we can't let them continue. But this is where you let the prospect know that you've deemed them qualified. And though that may seem arrogant that you're just going to let them know that, this is massive to just say it. You have to tell them that they're qualified and that they fit, perfectly into your offer. Because one is that it completely irons out the frame into your control if it wasn't already. And two is that there's a subconscious relief that occurs in their own mind when they go, like, there's like the big exhale where like, oh, I have the thing that's ready or that's made for me. Oh, perfect. Fuck. Thank God. And there's been already so many micro commitments that they need your offer already that this just pushes it into, overdrive. Because there's a subconscious suggestion that your solution is made for them. Now, on the flip side, if they're not deemed qualified, you let them know this respectfully, and you have to either downsell them or give them a free resource. One thing I wish someone told me, I don't think I've ever heard anyone else say this, is never let someone leave a sales call empty-handed. Ever. You either downsell them to the lower ticket offer that you have, or you give them a free resource. One of the two. Or sell them to a consulting call, it doesn't matter. You never let someone leave a call empty-handed, because what happens? If they leave the call empty-handed, they're going to associate that with you. Oh, I just spent 30 minutes with Captain Dickhead, and he didn't, I left an interaction with him without gaining something. Okay? And that is a very, very, very bad position to put yourself in, because then you're not leaving the person in a better place, right? So if the prospect is qualified, you're going to demonstrate this and ask for permission to outline your thesis and unique method, as well as your vehicle for getting client results. You need to ask permission here because they need to feel as if they're in control of this. They need to feel as if they're in control of the sale, but they're not actually, because you're controlling the process and the line of questioning. They just need to feel like they're into their control. No one likes to be sold. That's how you leave a really bad taste in someone's mouth. And they're not certain of the purchase. That's the problem, is that they end up not being certain. They end up being hyped up, and they're in a state of euphoria when they purchase, which is really bad, because then how do I put this? If they're in a state of euphoria when they purchase, instead of in a state of certainty, they end up having post-purchase remorse. And they feel like they were just in like a really emotional state when they bought, and that's how you get like sub 24-hour refunds. Okay? Next is the what we even do here. You're going to redeclare your offer headline For an example, our offer. So essentially what we do here is get coaching offers to 20 to 50K a month in 24 weeks or less. And if we don't do that and we don't add a minimum of 10,000 a month in revenue doing everything we say, we'll refund you in full. So you're going to restate your power offer in their mind. You're basically outlining what the hell your company and your offer even do. And you're going to do this while you are showing client results or case studies on screens. For example, I would show something like this. I might go into the wins channel on Slack. Stand by. I might go into the wins channel on Slack and show, some W's that are going down, right? I would just show case studies as I'm saying that. It's like we're re-backing up the claim and we're re-backing up our offer headline with evidence, right? So, and then immediately after you redeclare the offer headline, you're going to go into the backstory of how your company came to be, and you're going to do this in the format of the hero's journey. So you're going to say your call to adventure and is how you came across the problem that your company solves, the transformation. Then you're going to go into, I couldn't find a solution or method that works anywhere. I just couldn't. So I decided to build the solution and the method in my own unique way. And then the method that I figured out worked so well that now I get better results than everyone else in the industry. And then other people started to take notice of how well this thing worked, and they started coming and asking me for help. And then, because there was so many people asking me for help, I just started to selling that. And now I sell that as a productized service or a coaching offer. So we're basically, by the way, if I didn't make it really clear, like this is actually how most companies start anyway, right? Any good company. This is literally how, like, if you guys don't know, this is literally how technology develops, by the way. I wish someone would have told me this earlier. Most people don't understand the concept that every business by definition is technology, because it's all just about building unique solutions, methods, or tech that solves problems in new, unique ways, that does it more faster. It does it faster, better, or with less effort than the methods that were used before in any given niche or industry. And that's what you're outlining here. We're basically communicating that our way of doing things works so well that we have a magnetic draw of people coming in and working with us, right? That's basically what's happening. Like, our shit is so good. Our shit smells so good that other people come over and see what it's about. Then, after you complete that section and you make sure that they understand it, thesis section, you're going to explain your unique way of doing things in the following format. The old way that everyone in the industry does it, what average person operating in X market does to try to get results. Then you are going to explain the old results that they get, why the old way gets meager results, then the new way, what our unique method is and why it solves the problem better, faster, or easier. The new result being the result that comes from it and the characteristics of the data that display that it is our method that does it, right? So a really good example from our standpoint of view, excuse me, from a good example for our offer, something that's really characteristic of our client results is that they one of the common things we hear time and time again is that they experience the easiest sales calls they've ever had. Which, funnily enough, that initially wasn't even something that we had designed our offer and system to do, but that is a byproduct. So that is a characteristic of the client results that back up that it is our thing that is working, right? So that's something that I would say on a sales call, for example. Oh, yeah. The reason, I would say like, so our thing, it makes so you can close your coaching offer more expensively. Like, our program makes so you can close higher volume at more expensive prices easier. And a characteristic of that the reason I know that works is because our clients routinely outline that they experience the easiest sales calls they've ever had. And now, ideally, just as well, you're using a visual to explain your core concept. Even if it does come off a bit fourth grade, it comes off a little bit elementary, just do it. You don't want to take the risk. And you can even say like, hey, look, I know that this is a little bit fourth grader, but it just simplifies it a lot. And if you say that, then there's mutual respect established. So they're like, yeah, I know it's fourth grade, but like, okay, makes sense. I know that it's elementary. It's fine though. For example of how we explain our unique mechanism and core concept, just for you guys to understand, I would say most coaches in the market try to get clients directly through short form videos, cold DMs, and unnecessarily complex funnels and websites. This is why they end up closing small deal sizes, I don't know why that's sized, small deal sizes, and have to constantly essentially pound the pavement and play the convincing game all day to get deals, small deals, right? Our unique mechanism or method, the ecosystem funnel, pre-sells the offer before the call, relies on pull marketing and reciprocity in order to amp the prospect up and completely collapse the conversion window, resulting in higher ticket deal sizes than they ever have while simultaneously creating the easiest sales calls they've ever had in their life. And I would once again, I would literally show that. See, I'm beating my chest right now. Case study video led to the easiest sales call I've ever had. By case and fucking point, right? Or like Alistair finished the day yesterday with another 6-month 3K PIF, 6K for the day. So I would be showing this on the call and demonstrating that, okay, based on these client results, you can see here's characteristics that are indicative that our thing is working and that our thing is doing its job, right? Our program. I know I'm oversimplifying, but you guys get, I don't have to like hyper, the video is already 36 minutes long. I don't have to like hyper go into every little detail. You guys get what I mean. So before moving on, the prospect has to agree that the unique method and the thesis makes sense. Like they understand, they must vocalize that they understand why their approach thus far and why the standard market approach has not been working, and that your approach fundamentally makes more sense. Once again, this is literally how technology develops. So, Mr. Prospect, does all of this make sense? Great. What parts of it resonate with you, and why does it make sense to you? So you have to get them to reiterate it and vocalize it. Okay? Moving on. Vehicle section. This is a section where you're going to elaborate to the prospect in the exact order of steps. Okay, here, let me go back a second. So you're going to, once you've asked for permission to explain the thesis, and they have to agree that it makes sense, and you cannot move on until they agree that it makes sense. If they don't vocalize that they understand why it gets better results, they will not close. Because it's like, well, why would I buy your shit? If it's just like fucking everything else and it's expensive, fuck that. Unless they're buying specifically to get access to you. So unless your shit works really well and you can prove that, and unless if they don't understand why your thing works so well, they're not going to close. And they have to vocalize it. You have to get them to vocalize it. So into the vehicle section, you're going to elaborate to the prospect the exact order of steps that they're going to experience in order to achieve the transformation your offer solves. So similarly to the thesis section, they need to agree with every step here. And how you're going to introduce it is the feature. And basically you're going to say like, okay, here's this step that we do for coaching offers, right? Here's this step that we do. The problem it solves is basically the why we do it. We need to do this step because it solves this problem, plus the added benefit of it, and you're going to temp check them and make sure that they're basically still fucking conscious. Because this is where people, like you lose people if this goes on too long. Because if you have a complex offer, which is fine, you're going to lose people if they don't, if you don't temp check them constantly, where you just go like, does that make sense? That's all you're going to ask. Is that, okay, for us, I'll give you an example. So the reason that, so the first thing we do is we dial in your offer and we write you a new offer headline. Reason being is that most of the time your audience, it's not distilled what problem you solve. And this is going to allow you, to charge way more because your offer is going to be way more specific and way more dialed in, way more niche down, way more perceived quality. Does that make sense? That's a gross over-summarization of how I would do it in a sales call, but I'm just like speeding through it here. So you're going to do that for every single feature. Feature 2, plus problem it solves, the benefit, and the temp check. Feature 3, problem it solves, benefit, temp check, over and over and over. So, Mr. Prospect, based on everything I just went over, what do you think about the program or the protocol that I just went over? What do you think you're going to find most useful? Like, what are you going to get the most utility out of? Actually, sorry, I would split that into two. I would actually split that into two questions because you can get them to just keep spilling more of their guts about what they like about the program, which is exactly what you want because we're moving into the pitch shortly. So, Mr. Prospect, based on everything I just went over, what do you think about the program or the solution? Like, what do you like the most? What do you think is going to be the most useful? Oh, well, I really like the community, and I really like that there's coaching calls. Okay. So, what specifically now do you think is going to be of the most utility? So, before it's what you like the most, what do you think you're going to get the most utility out of? Well, I think the protocol is really in depth, and I think I'm going to make a lot of money doing this, or I'm going to lose a lot of weight. Cool. Why do you think so? Oh, well, because it's really outlined and it's in a step-by-step format, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Hand me your credit card. Not literally, but you guys get it. You're getting them to just spill their guts more about what they like about it and why they like it. That's what you're doing. Now, this is where you got to start. This is where the black magic starts. Okay? So, like, before you were doing some, like, already, like, pretty dark zone shit with the ascension and the open wounds where you're, like, getting them to sell themselves. That's some black magic already. This is where the black magic goes into hyperdrive. This is going to be really salesy, but that's why it works. So I call this the thermometer, where you basically go, now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where this offer and everything I've gone on so far is an absolute dumpster fire, or I've gone over so far. Sorry, that's a typo. So I'm just going to start over. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where this offer and everything I've gone over so far is a complete dumpster fire, or 10 being that you're absolutely confident you can get results using the protocol, the community, the calls, the DM closer we place for you, the copywriter, the task list we give you, the client success manager checking in on you, 2-3 times a week to make sure your action steps are being executed, and your own ability to execute. How confident are you that you're going to get results? Now, I know that was a lot in one sitting, but the reason that we do this is that if they say anything other than 10, they feel like a moron. That is precisely the point of this section. Because if you stack all your things, this is summarized, by the way. Ours, I stack it way longer on a call. When you run it like this, what ends up happening is they go, well, I'm not going to tell this guy his offer's a dumpster fire to his face. That's just socially weird. That just makes me look awkward. And given everything you just went over that solves every single problem and it takes out so much guesswork and headache of solving the problem and achieving the transformation, I'd have to be a retard for this not to work. And that's exactly what we are trying to get them to think inside their own head in this section. So we're restating every part of our feature stack and packing in their own execution ability to position this entire chessboard in our favor. And so it does two things. It does that whole thing where you go like, okay, it makes them think I have to be an idiot for this not to work. And then two is that because we're offering them the position of still like, hey, you can let me know basically if you have an objection beforehand. We're giving ourselves the ability to defang any possible objection before we price drop, because it is far easier to defang objections before the price drop than after, right? If someone has an objection after, they can pull the bull crap of, I need to think about it. It's like, dog, I just explained exactly every step that you're going to go through. You don't need to think about it. You're being a vagina. And we're preventing that by defusing their inability and inability to think. Because let's be honest, if someone gets on a sales call after they've seen the content and you've outlined everything and it is a good fit and you did your qualification process properly, there should be absolutely no fucking reason that they don't close. There should be zero reason. Most of the time, if someone doesn't close, it is actually because their own incompetence and their own thought processes are broken. Like their mental programming is so fucked and their decision-making patterns are fucked. Right? So we're trying to basically prevent them from being stupid and taking the wrong action of just being like a pussy when they know that they're on the call because they need acceleration. They need progress more, faster. They need it. That's why they're there. The only thing holding them back, if it's legitimately like a dollar amount and a logistic thing, that's understandable. But most of the time they're on the call, they're ready to go. And if they're not closing, it's because of their own like mental programming is fucked up. So we are preventing them from screwing themselves over right here. That's what this is. But Vince, isn't that salesy? Yes, we are trying to sell them. That's one thing I learned in car sales. The reason car salesmen close like crazy is because they're salesy. I don't get why people always do this crap where they go like, oh, I really don't want to be salesy. It's like, are you not trying to make money? If you guys have ever seen ClickFunnels landing page, they look horrible. But they fucking print. Some of the ugliest funnels and sales pages on the planet make the most amount of money. So it doesn't matter if it's salesy. We're trying to make money. We're not friend zoning ourselves here. Now, moving on after my rant, the prospect must confirm that they are a 10 out of 10 before next steps and price are dropped. Okay? They have to confirm that they are a 10 out of 10. If they say they're a 1, a 5, a 9, they're basically giving themselves an out. It goes back to this thing, like they're just allowing themselves to be a vagina. Okay? And we need to prevent that. They must confirm that they're a 10 out of 10 before next steps and price are dropped. This is literally your one and only chance to prevent getting cock blocked immediately after dropping the price. So do not waste it. If they blatantly tell you they're a 7 out of 10, don't make the offer. You say like, oh, well, yeah, like I'll explain right here. I have legitimately stopped calls and did not make an offer because someone said they were a 7 out of 10 even after I was like, oh, well, okay, why is it not a 100 out of 10? I'm curious. And they go, oh, because of this. And I solved those questions. I answered them. Oh, still a 7 out of 10. Okay, well, if you aren't completely sure that you'll get results, it's probably better that you don't join at the current moment anyway. I always like to make sure that anyone that gets access to our program is 100% certain in their own ability to execute on the deliverables and get results. And then you go, wait, so like how much does it cost? Well, there's no sense in me making an offer considering that you aren't 100% sure, so... And then you could just strategic silence it and make them uncomfortable as fuck. And they just go like, oh. Well, they either don't close, they weren't going to close anyway, and you're putting more sales pressure in the situation in order to basically like get them out of like their stupidity. That's literally what this section is. It's like the stupid filter before the actual price drop happens, right? So let's say they say they're 10 out of 10. This is where you're going to drop bombs and go and get your hefty payday, right? And this is, once again, the black magic and like all the black magic and all the, wizardry is occurring here. So you're going to tell them the next steps before price dropping. Okay, Mr. Prospect. So in terms of next steps, the first thing we're going to do is get you into Slack. We want to make sure that we establish communications and community access before anything else. Remember, we're making them feel comfortable that, oh, these guys aren't going to fuck me over. The first thing they want to do is establish communications. Cool. Then we're immediately going to schedule the onboarding call within the next 48 hours so we can immediately go over your offer and talk about the next steps from there. Then the second we have those taken care of, I'm going to grant you access to the customer docs so you can start to hammer through the offer and ICP docs, as well as get you access to all previous community call recordings. We're going to get you onto the group call schedule. We're going to get you access to Slack, community access, the whole nine. So they're just like, okay. Like you're giving them like they can relax their shoulders and exhale a little bit right here, right? And once they're like, okay, yeah, sounds great. How much does it cost, bro? Just lay it on me. All right, Mr. Prospect, let's get into it. So the price drop terminology. Now, this is what has worked for me and clients. I want to say something really quick before I get into it. A lot of people have their own way of doing this. Sales is person by person and offer by offer. If you disagree with this, that's fine. It's okay. We can have different sales processes. You can have your own sales process. If you like your 30%, your 20% close rate, fine, bro. I'm going to keep my 70% close rate. You do you. And I'm going to keep my clients 60% close rate. Go fuck yourself. So, in terms of the investment to get access to everything I just went over today, we actually give people two options. So the total investment is $12.8K. Now, how we used to offer that was a split pay of $6,400 upfront, then $6,430. But We actually started to get people recently that have been asking if they could just pay it up front to get incentivized pricing. So once that started to happen more often, we just decided to start offering 9.8K if it's paid up front and on the call. So you can just let me know which one of those works better for you. And it is very fucking important. I'm talking to you guys now. That was just like the pitch. It is very important that one, before I go into that, that you need to say this super fucking chill. You need to say this like just completely conversationally. And two, you need to say this part, which you can just let me know which one works better for you. That needs to be said in the exact same breath that you do the PIF pricing. So you are actually giving people an option. I know a lot of people, they only like to give PIF pricing up front, which is totally fine. But I like to do the price split, and I'll explain why momentarily. But the second you drop the PIF pricing, you have to say this in the exact same breath. Reason being is that if you don't, you look like the awkward one. So if you go, so we started offering that for 9.8K if it's paid upfront on the call. So you can just let me know which one works better for you. See how fucking awkward that sounded? But if you say, yeah, so we started offering that for 9.8K if paid upfront and on the call. So you could just let me know which one of those works better for you. And what happens here, actually, I'll just go into the step of everything that's happening. One, we're changing the conversation inside their own head. If there was only one pricing option, the conversation inside their head is, should I buy this? But because we're smart noodles, we change the conversation in their head by introducing a second pricing option. Then the conversation becomes, how do I want to buy this? That's something I learned in car sales, is you never, ever, ever give someone only one way to buy the thing, because you're inserting a different conversation into their head. It's a better conversation of which way should they buy this than should I buy this in the first place? Because if there's only one option, 9,800, then it's, well, do I want to drop 9,800 right now? Versus, do I want to pay 6,400 now and 6,430 or 9,800 up front? That's a way, way, way better conversation to be having with the prospect. Two, we are jacking up sales pressure. Because we've incentivized and ratcheted up the sales pressure for them to pay upfront and in full to capture the most customer LTV and get more upfront commitments. That's pretty much what this is. It's like this right here. They're getting a $3,000 discount by paying upfront. And they get the added relief of like, okay, it's done. I don't have to worry about a $6,400 payment in 30 days. Next after that is implied social proof by saying, quote, people started asking if they could pay up front. We've introduced two elements of assumed social proof. One, being that people recently have been asking to buy the program in the first place, for one. Two, being that people are opting to choose the payment in full option. So there's two different things where we're setting social proof traps here, where people are asking to buy into our program and people are choosing the payment in full option. This is how you rack 9.8Ks, right? Buying, not selling, because we're giving them an option. We are, once again, allowing them to buy from us, not be sold by us. And finally, like I mentioned before, we are eliminating strategic silence because we finished the price drop by saying which one of those works better for you in the same breath. We've gotten rid of the typical strategic silence period in sales calls where the prospect plays the silence game and then it's like back and forth. We've gotten rid of that. As now, because we've ended it by asking them the question, if they remain silent, they come off like the weirdo. Like, it's just awkward on their part than the typical silence that occurs. And if they do, like, let's say you do ask this. I've had this happen where I go like, oh yeah, which one of those works better for you? And they still play the silence game. I just go, did you hear me? And they're like, what? Oh, what did you ask? And I would just go, oh, which one of those works better for you? So like if you ended on a question, you just eliminate the strategic silence thing. Because that's so weird. If you guys have been on sales calls where there's like you just price drop. Oh yeah, so it costs fucking $10,000. And then it's like weird silence. It's just bizarre. Just put it in your favor to begin with. Set the chessboard up in your own favor from the start, right? So, moving on. Objection handling. As stated before, there's none. That doesn't exist. I was not lying in the beginning when I said that if you have a strong offer, if your content demonstrates that you have a strong offer, if people have seen your case studies before the call, you ran your call process properly and did not friend zone yourself, they will close. If someone does not close from the sales process, it is simply because they do not have the money. That is the only possible time. And even if that is the case, you're either downselling them to your lower ticket program, a one-time consulting call, or you're giving them a free resource to speed up their results in the area at hand so that they eventually buy from you later, right? So, summary and your next steps of everything we went over in this video. 1, you need to pre-sell prospects before they book a call with properly put together long-form case study breakdowns. 2, you're going to force these case studies down prospects' throat before they arrive on the sales call, so without being disingenuous. 3, you're going to make sure that you have the proper pre-call automation sequences in place to nurture prospects and keep you top of mind before the call. 4, design and run a militaristic sales process and script, then run it dozens of times and iterate it based on audience feedback. And 5 is you are going to utilize a marketing recursion process to fix your top of funnel messaging and content in order to tighten up all funnel metrics and force your close rate to get even higher. So you're going to do all this. You can do all this quickly, with speed and iteration and efficacy. You're going to make sure that you, like I said before, if I could just reiterate, if people have seen the case studies, if your content is, it's demonstrating case studies, and you are pre-nurturing people with the proper content nurturing sequences, and they've seen your long-form case study breakdowns before they get on calls, lights out. No problem at all. Now, conclusion and your 2 options. You can absolutely force your way to boosting your close rate upwards and closing huge coaching clients on your own. I figured it out solo. You guys, if you're watching this video, you absolutely have the potential to do it all by yourself without anyone's fucking help. But I cannot stress how incredibly helpful it is having other people right alongside you giving done-for-you templates of content and sales scripts, as well as personal catered consulting on your exact specific situation. If you want to get results and get more clients, get them easier and at higher ticket prices in less than half the time it would take you to do on your own, and you want to launch or scale your coaching offer to 20 to 50K a month within the next 24 weeks, you can apply below at the first link in the description and work with asm.close. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. And let's cop some PIFs. Also, if you guys haven't seen it, this is the new ASM branding. 100K PIF. Wire that shit. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend. I hope you got a shit ton of value out of this. If you want to work with us, with ASM, you can apply in the link below at the description. Comment any questions you guys have about this entire sales process. Make sure to like and subscribe for that sweet, sweet algorithm pump. Have a good rest of your day.